In the bottom left, teammates, he is the blue Protoss ForJumy.
Yeah, Berserk Esports it is, correct?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, a lot of people in the past used to always think that, wow, people are teammates, they play custom games all the time. I have a very hard time believing that ForJumy and ShaDoWn play a lot of custom games. Jumy is a ladder machine anyway. The man is playing either a ladder or any online tournament that he can possibly enter. I don't think that these two are necessarily ultra familiar with each other. And just because they're teammates, I don't think that really changes a whole lot.
I absolutely agree. I think there are some situations where I could see that they would play together, but I feel like it's almost always they would have played together before they were on the same team anyways.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, if one of them has like a PvP to get ready for, let's say, you know, the DreamHack qualifiers are coming up, you know, you've got a Protoss in the first round, then you can always reach out to someone else like, hey, you want to play a couple custom games because you don't want to play ladder and then get 7 PvTs in a row. That could be completely irrelevant to the match that you're preparing for. But I think there will be plenty of not mind games because they are teammates, but just regular mind games because it's PvP. And they're probably both going to be a little bit confused about what the other one is doing. They are ready, by the way. We can go ahead and hop back into it. Nothing crazy happening. Neither of these two guys is going to do something as wild as a cannon rush. I can't even remember watching any of these two guys cannon rush ever.
Not these two guys, but every so often someone decides to be really weird, like Zest, for instance. And you're just like, why did you do that? You're terrible at cannon rushing. But that grudge aside, we do have two, what looks to be kind of fake proxy pylons, right? Just putting it out there just to confuse the other Protoss. And it's always funny when they both do it. By the way, I wanted to be totally accurate on this. ShaDoWn had only missed one of the regionals, Fall Europe 2020. Apparently, he did not get into, which I do kind of vaguely remember now that I've said it. Just being surprised looking at the list of people who qualified and he wasn't there. But otherwise, yes, 100% a veteran. So let's see if that's adds to the benefit here. Maybe he's taking it more of a chill approach, not nearly as nervous. But as we saw in the last series, apparently even the most established pros can be nervous. Even Harsum killed his own probe.
Yeah. That's not an interaction that we see very often, and definitely not one we expect in a Harsum against Skillus. But it was funny. I'd love to see the reactions of both players as well. It's really cool to see them smiling, and even though they care and they are nervous, you can kind of see the pressure fade away immediately after, like, all right, we're still just playing StarCraft and it's gonna be okay. Silly things happen.
Yes. A couple of different openers. We have Stalker Sentry into a Nexus for ShaDoWn, very macro-oriented, whereas for ForJumy, it did open up with 2 Stalkers, as them kind of looking around for potentially any of the probes. Not going to find this one, or even his opponent's adepts. Did you actually see the Stalker Sentry pop out? I was laughing at the probe kill.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure. I was kind of looking at the group as well. I don't think that either of these two players is necessarily a favorite to make it into the top 4. But if you want to keep those dreams alive of potentially sneaking into the playoffs in this group, it's kind of a must-win for both of them, right? Like, this is just a game, best of 3, that you need to win. If you even want to think about making top 4, they need to pick up a W here, because it's not going to get any easier when there is still Goblin, there is Vanya in this group, and obviously Clem as well.
Right, yes. Yeah, Group D, maybe we have more of like a top 2 pretty much figured out, but then the next 2 is very up in the air. So, yeah, definitely got to start the W's now. And it does feel like ShaDoWn has won the W. He has gotten into Stalker Sentry. Okay, not unless you... Okay, that's a little word. I was going to say Stalker Sentry scouts the Stargate, so he should have perfect defense against that, but then letting 2 Adepts into the main, actually not all that bad. 2 probes, not even that last one. That I thought was going to get 4 or 5, and that's the only reason I was worried. But nope, ShaDoWn still has that probe lead.
That's indeed pretty acceptable. Does ShaDoWn know about this target? Yes, he does, and that's why he leaves a couple of units in the main base. He is going to warp in his own 2 adepts in the top left side. That's actually kind of cool. Even if it's a slow warp in, it makes it very unlikely that ForJumy is going to keep an eye on those. And if those 2 adepts can sneak into the main base while all of the Jumi's units are on the other side of the map, they have potential to kill a whole lot more than the 2 probes that ForJumy just killed. Ooh, cool
that is cute. Hallucinated Oracle into the main to distract the Stalkers. And then the natural,
wow.
I don't think ShaDoWn took this Oracle seriously. Did he not notice it? This is really late. 8 probes go down when he could have just pulled the probes away if his stalkers weren't capable of defending them.
If he just clicks them towards the most right side mineral patch, then they will get healed by the battery. He may end up losing 1 or 2, but he shouldn't really lose too many more than that. The 2 adepts, though, do not get in. Gateway gets warped in, and ForJumy is a lot quicker on pulling the probe. So solid start here for ForJumy. Very well done, especially... Okay, he could have killed the sentry there, I feel like. If the adepts would have turned around, he easily kills the sentry. ShaDoWn not playing super sharp yet. Well, ForJumy, I don't want to say that he's flying, but he's going to be pretty happy with this start.
I think so. I mean, I thought ShaDoWn's opener gave him a little bit of a, certainly gave him a heads up and thus a lead, but not able to capitalize on it. At least stops that stasis attempt right in its tracks. ShaDoWn did have a couple of more stalkers and make that a couple more as ForJumy went scouting with 3. That was a bit weird.
Chasing the adepts. I think he thought that was just still just a single adept. So he's like, let me just go ahead and pick up that 1 adept that was left over. And suddenly he ran into an army. Could have been worse, but definitely looked awkward.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense then. Because I know it was 1 stalker went off on the left side, but yeah, if he was chasing the adept, didn't realize ShaDoWn to be a little bit more aggressive, actually take that forward position. Totally understandable. And ShaDoWn now feeling perhaps he can stay even longer. I do think you have to be wary of the timing here. You're going to have to skedaddle at some point. And ShaDoWn might pick the perfect moment as he once again deals with Oracle harassment. I'm surprised he blinked in there.
One way to deal with the Oracle harassment, right? At least there was only a single probe that got stuck, but it all looks a little bit clumsy. One Oracle does get picked up in the main base. His Oracle turned to the left like 3 or 4 times. Almost felt that maybe Jumy was F2ing a little bit, but I don't know him as a big F2er, to be honest. I watched his stream and I've played a fair amount of games against him. Could just be the nerves as well that we even saw before with 2 players that have won a whole lot more than these 2 have. But overall, still a pretty damn even game. The third Nexus is obviously quite a bit quicker on the side of ShaDoWn, but that's like the only real advantage that he has. ForJumy still has an Oracle, and that's an advantage too, even though he flies past the Stalkers and takes 4 shots. Is he going to blink into the main base with his entire army? That's pretty crazy.
That is really crazy. I mean, it definitely is what he's going to do, but 17 Stalkers to 16, ShaDoWn actually has the lead. It's going to be a little awkward getting them up the ramp, sure, but this won't be sticking around for too long, although that stasis trap does complicate things. Oracle barely not dead, gets that stasis trap down. Now blinking aggressively isn't really an option, so ForJumy even sticking around longer in the main base. Blinks to the right. Gonna be
oh my goodness!
Oh, he didn't see it?
I guess he didn't, but there's still an Immortal, and there is a battery nearby. Now the Oracle is actually going to town on the probes at the third. All of the Stalkers went into the main base. I do think that Jumy should probably leave right about now. Nope, he wants to get Big Daddy Immortal, and he gets the Immortal. Jumy with the plays. It's all a little chaotic, and it's all a little bit hectic, but it is working out for the young German Protoss.
Wow, that stasis trap could not have been more perfect. Because the thing is that if there was about half of the Stalkers, that's usually a better situation, because then you're just cutting out half the army and you win the fight. But in that case, with the 2 shield batteries and the Immortal, it still might not have been enough, but the entire army really getting stasis trapped. It allowed ForJumy to stick around so much longer, complicated the third base with that Oracle too. I was going to point out that ShaDoWn had a couple other benefits other than just that third base being faster. He did have a couple more probes. He also had a faster forge and I believe faster charge. Yeah, it's already done. But with all of that chaos, he never started +1 attack. And I'm not sure he's realized it. We lost the forge, so there you go.
Yep, and hasn't really... No, he doesn't have a Templar Archives. ShaDoWn.
Did I say Templar? I definitely meant forge. He lost his forge. He lost his ability to get +1. he had a faster forge and then lost it.
The funny thing about the stasis trap as well is that there were 2 Stalkers shooting at that Oracle all along, and it was very close to just getting picked up before the stasis was even done. Now that Oracle does still get picked up in the center. But I was like 100% sure that he was at least going to kill that Oracle, then that Oracle somehow gets out of there, and then he just blinks with his entire army into the stasis trap. Jumy has a little advantage when it comes to the amount of gateways. It's 9 against 8. 9 is kind of an unusual number, but yeah, we just somehow ended up there. That 1 Archon is pretty godlike here, though. I think that Jumy can absolutely... 2 Archons. Jumy can take this fight. Jumy wants to take this fight, but it feels like he doesn't know about his army. Now that 1 Archon already takes a lot of damage. What is happening here, Zombie Grub? Craziness.
ShaDoWn I maybe felt the pressure really to attack. Oh, this guy got the Warp Prism! Oh my god, this is craziness. This is all over the place. So slow Zealots versus Charge Lots. First of all, ForJumy looking really awkward. His own Archon's gonna suck behind. Now on the retreat, as ShaDoWn realizes that yes, he can in fact take the fight, which I think he was saying earlier but was incorrect about. Now he's totally correct.
No, there was no way he could have taken that fight. It was 2 Archons against 0. There was a Warp Prism. Jumy had more units. But Jumy completely missing that army. He is going to be able to at least save 1 Archon by the looks of it, but he has thrown away the advantage he has created for himself. The Prism was a little bit exposed there in the center. Can Jumy still hold? It's 8 Zealots against 16. It's now 11 Zealots against 21. ShaDoWn is ready to end it. Jumy is just going to try to buy some time. He does finally have charge as well, but this is going to get very difficult.
He does have that +1 too, but no shield battery. It's only just out finishing off to the right side, so this is most of the fight done and dusted. Try to go after the Warp Prism. He's gonna find it with that second blink, but then lose all of his stalkers anyways. This was a PvP, my man. This was back and forth, but maybe not in the most clutch of ways. Kind of both players making some silly mistakes, and it is gonna end with ShaDoWn taking the victory.
Yeah, ShaDoWn made a couple of mistakes, but he won't make the mistake of just moving into a battery overcharge there. Blinks forward, takes it out, and at this point he just has an overwhelming amount of units. Nothing that Jumy can do anymore. GG. That was the silliest interaction that I've seen in the last 2 days of DreamHack. ShaDoWn is moving out with an army that's actually weakened in the army of Jumy. Jumy is moving out as well. And he must have just not seen that entire army. He caught like glimpses of a couple of units, but he must have thought that was just a hit squad trying to buy time. With the way that he moved his army and where he sieged that Prism, it was very obvious that he expected the main army to just be at home. And suddenly the main army is coming in from behind. He loses the Prism. And if he would have just moved immediately and fought, it would have actually kind of still been somewhat close. Of course, doesn't have the immediate reinforcements, but it'd be kind of close. But because you're running away, then you're just losing more units, especially with the slow Zealots. Oh, poor Jumy. He pretty much had that one. There wasn't really a whole lot that could go wrong in these kinds of movie fights when it's Zealot, Archon, Stalker.
Yeah, and he just made it the most awkward it possibly could be. A little bit of a chase when you have slow Zealots, always really weird. Then trying to take a fight with those slow Zealots, even blocking his own Archons, also made it, doubly weirder. So any other situation, and it's good. And it's actually ShaDoWn making the mistake, thinking that he either has to pressure and knows that it's going to go poorly, or thinks that he's actually okay. Either way, it was starting off not looking good for him. Turns really good, and he's able to capitalize on it. So, I mean, 90% of that game was kind of funny. There was a bit of throwing from both sides. But the last 10%, I will say that ShaDoWn, maybe using some of his experience and then the confidence he had gained to really wrap it up quickly, definitely knew that he had the winning move. So, good game to him. And we get into game 2 on 2,000 atmospheres. In the bottom left, it is the blue Protoss ForJumy.
And in the top right side, we're looking at the main base of the red Protoss, who jumped into a big stasis trap, lost 9 probes to an Oracle, even though his army and the battery were nearby. But in the end, he managed to close things out and take the 1-0 lead in this PvP. The French Protoss is ShaDoWn.
What a PvP. What a PvP. But that can be it. We got the 2 fast games, super long game, the last series. This time around, I think we had a very classic kind of booting up of both Protoss's brain a little bit, where they're like, right, PvP. Oh, right, PvP. Oh, yeah, okay, PvP. So there's a lot of silly mistakes. And a surprising amount, I hope I'm not being mean saying this, but a surprising amount of not noticing stuff.
Yeah.
Usually if we're watching a unit fly through a base, we expect the person flying the unit to actually have kind of digested the information very quickly when it comes to pro gamers, and it just felt like, while they could see things, they didn't really digest it.
I think one of the coolest plays was obviously first the hallucinated Oracle. It's like, oh, here it is, fake Oracle in the main, and then the other real Oracle actually shows up in the natural, and it makes sense that can kill 1 or 2 probes. And then ShaDoWn's like, I still don't believe it, man. That thing ain't real. Meanwhile, Pulsar Beam is just counting down all the probes. It's like 6, 7. He's like, I'm still not feeling it. There is no pain here. It's like, well, mate, eventually this is going to start adding up. But yeah, a beautiful clown fiesta, I think, is the best way to sum it up game 1 day.
Right, yes. I do think this one's going to be a little tighter in a lot of respects. But we already have, I guess, a bit of an attempted confusion, right? Last game, they both started off with those pylons hidden away. And, I mean, that might have, certainly influenced the decisions. Now it's just ForJumy, who kind of cutely puts it at the third base, too. And that might even contribute later on in the PvP, having a very fast shield battery placed. But that's for much later. Mostly just because ShaDoWn looking. And he does have 2 probes looking for that proxy pylon.
Chrono-boosting out Warp Gate. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean something, but most pros players, they think very well about what they want to chrono early on. Jumy is going to just follow this up with Sentry, so it seems like he just wants to be safe and expand. And in case he does have to deal with some sort of aggression, he's going to have access to Warp Gate a little bit quicker than he otherwise would have had.
Let's change up. And ShaDoWn still incapable of finding the pylon. I mean, it's one of the last places you would expect. Is continuing to build stalkers. He's a little worried about another 1-base Stargate, so he adds on a shield battery, again, with very limited scouting. So, absolutely, now he's going to see a Nexus, but absolutely it feels like ForJumy gets the lead here in the early game. Already has his 2 sentries, might even feel confident enough to not even make an additional 5th and 6th unit, especially if he's able to get the jump like this. Force Field's not going to get the kill, but certainly sends ShaDoWn packing, buys a lot of time to build that shield battery. If it needs it.
I don't think it would have been too bad to drop double force field there. I think using 2 force fields to kill a stalker is a pretty fine trade, but I guess Jumy just wanted to make sure that he wouldn't use all his energy, then be in the dark, and then instead, oh, well, he still ends up losing his hallucinated scout. So now if you're Jumy, this is actually a little bit scary. Like, 4 stalkers is not what you're worried about, but you're worried about what else could be out there. So you really want to confirm as quickly as possible that your opponent is playing a normal game, is expanding. We know that ShaDoWn is, but Jumy doesn't.
That's actually very scary. Very scary indeed. So, I mean, obviously he's going to finish up that natural shield battery. He's not feeling it's going to be a Stargate of any type, right? Doesn't bother with the main base, and that's definitely the one thing he could kind of predict. But otherwise, now he's just going to have to wait it out, hope that you're correct. Say, okay, nothing's attacking me. All right, I'm pretty sure that he expanded. And if he expanded, he's probably going to go in a blink.
He finally found the pylon.
Oh, there you go.
The adept chain. ShaDoWn checked every corner of the map, and now he accidentally finds it with his adept while he's trying to hide them. And they're not very well hidden anymore. It's always nice as well when you know your opponent walked in a couple of adepts this early on, because you know that when it comes to pure stalker numbers, you should be fine. I do think this shade is going to, I want to say, finish up, but Jumy actually turns around with the units that we're chasing, which seemed unnecessary because he left plenty of units at home to deal with those 2 adepts.
I think with this hallucination, ForJumy, I mean, he could actually be scouting for, I mean, we were talking about earlier, Robo-Charge, right? I think also seeing the 3rd Nexus, it might trigger him to move out. He does have that faster blink. Not that he would be 100% sure about that, but yeah, if he moves out before that shield battery's on at the 3rd base, he would have a couple more stalkers. And if you get the jump, too, kind of you could catch the other Protoss by surprise. You can do some feisty damage, but these adepts, they're buying a lot of time. Yeah, okay. He's completely lost track of them.
He could have caught a glimpse of it there towards the end, but he completely loses them, and that's very painful, especially once you want to focus on aggression. I'm surprised that ShaDoWn cancels that. All right, well, you thought it was going to be a bit cleaner. It's a lot of things, but it's all over the place. Jumy is setting up his own adept run by as well. So this push isn't the real push. This is like, hey, ShaDoWn, I'm here. Pay attention to my army. And while that's happening, he's going to try to kill as many probes as possible with his adepts in the natural.
Right, that is now the bigger threat since ShaDoWn has plenty of units and a shield battery on the way. Also got the jump on ForJumy's army initially, which kind of made this a bit weird, but looks like it's still going to be a tussle. And a big distraction as the probes just entirely pulled away. It's the best thing he could do.
Hello?
This actually does snowball for ForJumy. I mean, I was kind of with ShaDoWn. I figured he was going to be good to go. But that shield battery finishing 10 seconds too late to make it a comfy hold forces him back, forcing him to lose a couple extra army units.
And now there is an adept in the main base. That should be able to get like 1 or 2 extra kills. Gets 1, and now unfortunately for ForJumy to start shooting. Jumy definitely overstaying his welcome there a bit. He was doing so well, but chasing all the way into a natural and then even sticking around for a split second when battery overcharge was activated. That seemed a little too much of the good stuff. Just craziness between these 2. They're swinging, they're throwing everything that they have at each other, and there's often harass and a big battle happening at the same time. And then of course one of the things often goes well and the other one goes a little bit less successful.
ForJumy got a lot of damage done with those adepts, but ShaDoWn still holds on to a slight worker lead, which I mean, I'm a little surprised by it. I thought he was in a lot more trouble, but manages to handle things. And ForJumy did overstay his welcome by a couple of stalkers. But yeah, it's another weird one. I think ShaDoWn, with the 2 adepts initially going into that natural, could have done a lot more damage.
Yeah.
But maybe thinking back to being over-aggressive in the previous game, I mean, they could still be very influenced by that.
Look at the army movement. We have once more completely avoided each other. Now ShaDoWn shows up here. He's like, what? 3 units? And Jumy runs into the third of ShaDoWn. He's like, what? 2 units? What is happening? Oh, but Jumy chasing now runs into an Immortal on the other side of the map. Jumy blinks into an Immortal that's in range of battery overcharge, and that could very well be the end of this game. It was similar number hit squads, but ShaDoWn gets phenomenal trades, and Jumy gets the worst trade ever.
Yeah, I was trying to explain those adepts not shading in by saying they might be afraid of being as aggressive or as bold as their previous game, and they just proved me wrong. They just both attacked each other's third base. Little bit of a, I mean, it could be turning into a base loss for ForJumy, not really a base trade, since our blue Protoss has taken so much damage, lost the probes. Well, again, he was lower on the probes, so even though they traded out probes, lower on the probes, lower on the army, and now behind on that 4th base.
Oh, pain. I think pure pain for ForJumy in this best of 3. These are 2 games that I think were within striking distance for him. He could have very well won both of them. I think if he, when he entered the depths in the natural, if he would have just kept the stalkers at the third, don't chase the low HP stalkers into the battery overcharge and only control the adepts, he would have been flying. And here, if he would have somehow seen that army, it would have nothing happened, right? Like, yeah, maybe tiny advantage ShaDoWn, but really no big deal. He misses it by like a few pixels. ShaDoWn misses the army of Jumy by a few pixels, but then ShaDoWn is the one who has an Immortal popping and battery overcharge. And, you know, with 6-7 stalkers, that's just not something you can fight, especially if the barrier is still up.
Right. Yeah, that's could very well be the nail in the coffin. I think this is a situation where if ShaDoWn isn't feeling confident, there's been multiple occasions in the past 2 games where his overconfidence is played against him, even though he won the last one. Then maybe ForJumy could try and turtle this out, right? And buy a lot of time, maybe get the disruptors. But that would be one of his only hope. The other hope is trying to hit before ShaDoWn has taken advantage of the lead that he's created. So that's what he's trying to do here. But it's a 30 army supply difference. There is no shield battery, okay, sure. But there's a lot more army here for ShaDoWn. That's pretty much ready to tango. Maybe 2 Archons. I didn't focus fire that, but here comes ShaDoWn's own Archons.
Yep, and Jumy actually losing a lot of zealots there, right? That kind of just ran away from the rest of the army. So he's partially shooting at the Nexus, but he's also losing all of his zealots. There is a counterattack happening during this, and Jumy is already losing 6-7 probes. He's gonna lose most of his army. And I have the feeling that his Robo Bay won't really come into play because ShaDoWn has such a big lead at this point, and I don't think he's ever gonna turn around for that Warp Prism.
Yeah. Even if ForJumy had maybe done the start of a comeback, you know, sniped the 4th base, got the heck out of there in time to only lose a couple of stalkers or what have you, then he still would have been down in army supply. Would have been really betting his life on a good shield battery, I suppose. So, you know, no matter how you slice it, ShaDoWn was in the winning position, really would have had to have misread the situation or miscontrolled, I guess kind of as poorly as what happened in the last game. But doesn't happen. ShaDoWn now up 70 supply, charging to kill the 4th base. Now the 3rd base could even go into the natural if he really wanted to. I think ForJumy, it's not that he loses to ShaDoWn.
Well,
it's just the way he loses must really hurt, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I think both games he was within striking distance. If you change 1 or 2 things in